As the United States moves forward with its pivot towards Asia, the tiny U.S. territory of Guam is set to become a much bigger piece on the Asia-Pacific strategic chessboard. Around 5,000 U.S. Marines are slated for transfer to Guam from Okinawa by 2014.
What I think we've been able to do in a bipartisan context that I think is generally understood strategically is invest more in a number of places, Guam, Singapore. These are about diversifying our presence to make sure that we can respond rapidly and that no one base or no set area is overly vulnerable either politically or militarily.
CCTV's Ginger Vaughn visited Guam recently to find out how this new U.S. re-engagement policy is affecting people on the island.
As the U.S. military slowly shifts towards bases in the Pacific as part of its Asian pivot strategy, there's optimism on Guam that the buildup will help kickstart the island's economy.
Overall, I think it's good for Guam. We, for the most part, this administration supports the buildup and expects it and anticipates it in a positive way.
Guam is a non-self-governing U.S. territory in the Pacific, around 4,000 kilometers or 2,500 miles southeast of Beijing. It's small. An area roughly the size of Washington, D.C. supports a population of more than 180,000 people and around 14,000 U.S. troops, with plans for another 5,000 U.S. Marines by 2014.
Plans for the transfer of thousands of Marines from Okinawa to Guam have been in the works for years, but the timeline remains unclear due to budget cuts and delays in Washington. Local experts say Guam needs the money that the new troops will bring to the island.
I think the impact of the buildup will help our construction industry. It'll help create new jobs and projects for our local contractors. But in addition to that, the overall impact is that we'll have more people on island spending money, and commerce will be positively impacted.
Investors and business owners have taken a chance on new ventures, seeing an influx of more troops as a way to bring paying clients into restaurants, bars, and shops.
Another good thing about having military here as well is that their money's consistent. They're always going to get their paycheck. It's always going to be there. They have maybe a little bit more expendable cash because a lot of the stuff that they need is paid for already.
But some locals are not so enthusiastic about more troops in Guam, or Guam, the island's name in Chamorro, the native language.
For or against it, this buildup is an example of how Guam, as a modern-day territory or modern-day colony, can have anything imposed on it by the United States. We're listed by the United Nations as a non-self-governing territory.
Kara Flores-Mays of local anti-buildup group We Are Guahan says more military could be hard on the culture and natural environment on the small island, which depends on its pristine waters and beaches for tourism, the main industry here, which rakes in $1 billion a year.
You can't buy cultural resources or historical sites. You can't buy a reef. You can't buy an acre of jungle. But at the same time, looking at the military buildup as the only economic solution that Guam has, I think is really limiting and not recognizing the other resources that we have.
While Guam continues to prepare the island for more U.S. Marines, some like Flores-Mays says regardless of the potential economic impact, they are in no hurry to see more troops on Guam. Ginger Vaughn, CCTV, Guam.